Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be discussing building a better budget. My name is Bette Stisney, and I'm from the Training and Development Department. So the first rule I want you to remember about a budget is you can't spend more money than you make. So what happens when you've tried to start something new? Maybe it's a diet, you want to lose some weight. Start counting the calories, right? What about you want to run a marathon? Start with a 10K, maybe even walking that 10K. Building a budget is something new for you as well. So let's talk about what some of those obstacles may be. It's possible that you procrastinate. I do. It's possible that you've made some bad decisions in the past and you still feel some regret from those. Forgive yourself. The advantages of creating a budget are going to far outweigh the disadvantages. And today, we're going to walk you through some of those steps. We're going to start small, and you're going to see how successful it will be for you. One of the first steps is going to be writing your goals. What do you want to achieve, and when do you want to achieve it? You probably wrote SMART goals during your performance evaluation with your employer last year. Well, that can be used in budgeting as well. The acronym SMART. Let me define that for you. So the S stands for specific. You need to know exactly how much money that thing is going to cost. Is it a $25,000 car or is it a $30,000 car? You need to know the exact amount so you know how to plan for it. The M stands for measurable. You can easily get sidetracked if you can't see your progress. When you were a kid, did you ever put pennies in a jar? And as you saw those pennies mount up, you knew you were getting closer to being able to spend them. That's measurable. The A stands for attainable. Are you really going to be able to do this? It can be very discouraging if it's just completely out of your reach, which leads you to realistic. If you're going to create other financial burdens with this goal, maybe you shouldn't be going there. And finally, the T stands for time-bound. You need to have an end date. Remember, at the S stage of the goal, you chose the specific amount. Well, how long is it going to take you to save for that? Is it going to take you weeks, months, maybe even years? You need to have that end date in mind. Goals can also be defined as short-term, mid-term, or long-term. What do I mean by that? Short-term goal is about a year. Maybe you're going on vacation. A mid-term goal is completed within 1 to 5 years. Are you buying a new car? And long-term stretches over 5 years. Maybe you want to purchase your first home. To help find where your goal fits, you look at the cost of the goal and divide it by the number of months it will take to save for it. And then you'll know if they're short, mid, or long-term. Now, a consideration for those longer-term goals is you want to add in any interest that you may make. Maybe you have stocks that are paying you dividends. Maybe you have interest from your savings or checking account. Those are going to get you close to your goal a little bit faster. Also, for long-term goals, consider that the price you're estimating at today might be a little different by the time that date comes around. Price might be a little higher, might be a little bit lower. So, here's an example. Are you ready to go on vacation? You've planned something great and it costs $2,400. It's got airfare, meals, lodging, everything's included. So how are you going to save for this vacation? It's 6 months away. That's 24 weeks. How much every week do you need to save? Maybe $100, right? That was pretty simple math. Well, but look at your SMART goals. Is this really attainable and realistic for you? You need to look at your situation. Maybe you need to push the date out a little bit. Maybe you need more than 6 months. Or it's possible you could move the date to an off-season. Maybe the cost of the vacation would be a little bit lower then. You know, we can't plan for everything. Stuff happens. So one thing you should definitely have in your goals is an emergency account. You want to be able to save for that rainy day that we hope never comes. Natural disasters, unexpected medical expenses. You want to have that money available to you, they call it liquid, so that you don't have to borrow money from your friends and family. You don't have to take out an expensive loan. Now, as a single person, we suggest you have 3 months worth of your essential expenses covered. If you're caring for others, consider having 6 months. So if you already have debt now, should you be saving towards those goals? Absolutely, but especially the one about the emergency fund. You also need to be saving for your retirement. You know, that's not something you can plan at the last minute. You can start putting money towards it now that could be a tax advantage for you, and many employers will match your contribution. Definitely take advantage of that. In the end, you need to decide if you need to put some of those less vital goals aside. The interest on the debt that you'll have to pay is going to be much higher than the interest that you would earn on your savings. Most of us spend what we have, no matter what that amount is. So how do you start savings? Well, make it easy. Deposit some of your paycheck in a savings account immediately when you receive it. Use automatic deposits to make the transfer seamless. You don't have to remember to transfer it every 2 weeks. And since you're using a savings account, you'll be earning interest and helping the amount grow. Saving is a discipline, just like eating the right food or doing the right exercises. You're investing in yourself. You're worth it. So if you're not paying off your debts, let's look at an example of what kind of trouble you can get into. Let's say you borrowed $2,000 and there's a 19.8% APR. Well, the minimum payment expected is either 2.5% of the balance or $20, whichever one is higher. If you only make the minimum payments, can you guess how long it's going to take you to pay that off? It will take you 14.5 years to repay it. And the interest alone will be $2,848. That's on top of the $2,000 you originally borrowed. Nobody wants to be in that kind of debt. To get out of that kind of debt, you need to start savings, of course, but how can you save if you don't know where your money's going? You need to be able to track it. A lot of different ways you can do that. For the next couple of weeks, spend the way you normally would. Write it down, and maybe a little notepad. What are you buying? When are you buying it? And how much does it cost? Every day you can total those numbers up and start to see the figures. If you use your debit cards or credit cards exclusively, then you've got an electronic trail. Remember to check the ATM machine. How often do you go to get cash before it's all used up again? There's lots of different software you can use to track these type of expenses that will help you see what's going on. And once you've got that information, you'll be much better prepared to create a budget and find out where you can start saving. Now you need to build that budget. It doesn't have to be complex. It's simply a record of a spending and a savings plan that you develop, maybe on paper, maybe electronically. You'll note your income and you'll note your expenses. Let's look into a little more detail on that. It's a good idea to start with the income side of the budget, because that's really going to help you determine what you can spend and what you can save. Remember that rule we talked about earlier? Expenses should never exceed your income. So here's some things you want to consider. Be conservative, don't overestimate. Only include overtime pay, for example, if you are 100% certain it will be available to you. Include bonuses only if they are guaranteed. If you are self-employed, income could be challenging, so err on the safe side. Do you receive commissions or seasonal variables? That can be hard to calculate, so take a look at last year's income for a base, but be conservative for this year's estimate. Are your tax withholdings accurate? You don't want to owe money at the end of the year or receive a huge refund. If you're getting a big refund, remember that's your money, not a gift from the government, and it could have been earning interest in a savings account. And if you're too low and you owe money at the end of the year, remember you also will have interest and penalty attached. We've looked at the income, now let's look at the expense side. You want to note two columns here, current expenses and proposed. Current are the ones that are fixed and variable, and proposed are those that are budgeted items that you want to include. So for current expenses, I mentioned fixed and variable. What do I mean by fixed expenses? Your rent, it's the same every month. But variable expenses, periodic expenses, those would be things like your gas and electric bill, things that vary by the season perhaps. If you find it hard to figure out those variable expenses, easy. Just look at last year's, get that total for the year, and divide it by 12 months. That will make it much easier for you. Now when this is all done, add up each column. The fixed expenses you may not be able to do too much about, but what about the variable ones? Can you bring some of those down? And look at the proposed column, the goals that you're trying to set. Maybe you need to make some adjustments there. You need to identify what are the things you need versus the things that you want. So we've got a couple more ideas for you about how you could work with your budget. What about increasing your income? Could you find part-time work? Now, decreasing your spending will enable your goal achievement, but please make reasonable choices. You want to look carefully at your items to see what can be postponed, maybe reduced, or eliminated altogether. And third, don't forget about your goals. Keep looking at them, seeing if you need to adjust them a little bit. In the end, you have some choices. You have decisions that you need to make. And these three questions might help you. Do I need it? Do I really have to have it? Do I need it now? And what would happen if I didn't have it? Compare that to buying a bag of wonderful items at the checkout stand, impulse buying, right? I do that sometimes, to the money that you could have saved instead and put it towards your goal and your savings account. You need to stay realistic as well. Some of these goals are going to be harder than others, but you can do it. Do you monitor your progress? Remember those pennies you put in the jar when you were a kid? Pay attention to the balance of your savings accounts. You're going to love seeing that grow. Are you organized? Pay those bills on time. You can do it. Keep your budget handy so you can reference it. And maybe you need to just set up a little space in your home for money management. You need to expect setbacks. There will be bumps in the road. That is life. But get back on track as quickly as you can, and don't be tempted to abandon your dream. And finally, reward yourself along the way. Hard work deserves recognition. It's all for you. We've given you a lot of great ideas today. What are you going to do now? You're going to create the budget? You're going to look at your goals? For sure, go set up that automatic transfer of money into your savings account. That's an easy step to take. Maybe you want to draw up a milestone calendar. What are those special events that you think should happen at a certain time? Mark your calendar so you can see them coming towards you. Remember to have patience with yourself. Success does not come overnight. But start today. You'll be one step closer. I'm so happy you took some time to join me today. I hope you gained some great ideas and tips and tricks that you can take forward. For more information, please look at our Balance website. Thank you.